Welcome to Talk to Me. Real talk, real issues. Today on the show we have Mr. Larry Williams. He was a labor leader who has spoken at Cornell University, Frostburg University, and also George Washington University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. So how have things been going for you? How's the speaking business? How's talking to all these different colleges and teaching them different things about the union? How's that going for you?
It's been a good and productive summer. I've talked to a lot of students who are interested in what the labor movement is. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are becoming newly interested in the labor movement, particularly because of the College Players Union, or the potential thereof. So that has been quite interesting.
Okay. What do you think of some of the college players, their ambition for joining the union? Do you think they really want to join the union, or they just want to come in and just play ball?
I think that first and foremost, the majority of the players in the NCAA, mm-hmm. whether we're talking about basketball or football, are not necessarily going to be breakout stars.
Okay.
So I think that many of them, from what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, are interested in making sure that their health and welfare concerns are taken care of after school.
Okay.
If you even look at, the legal grounds upon which the National Labor Relations Board ruled that they can organize the college players, the football players, mm-hmm. that ruling only applied to players who receive scholarships.
Wow.
So what that means is you have a large cross-section of players who still wouldn't be eligible regardless. But, with that said, I think that the main concern of the school on the other side is that, let's be honest, at the end of the day, there's a lot of money that's being generated. If you talk about basketball and football, $16 billion alone.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
A lot of money.
So here you see the problem. I mean, they're not going to say that up front, obviously, but coaches make 100 times what they did only 30 years ago.
True.
So you need to consider, are these players actually employees, or mm-hmm. are they student athletes, which is what was the ruling when the suit was done against the NCAA about 50 years ago.
Okay.
So it's quite the intense battle, but it's going to be pretty educational.
So with all of the money that the college players are bringing in, college football, basketball, baseball, mm-hmm. you name it, mm-hmm. Do you think they should be paid for their services? Because they're bringing in all these millions and billions of dollars to these colleges, and some of them can't even eat lunch or dinner or mm-hmm. take care of themselves, or their families are not there to help them through college. So,
Right. We've heard some pretty bad horror stories of students spreading cream on bagels and things like that to survive, or using campus water hoses to clean their cars because they can't afford it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of revenue being created if we're talking about video games, marketing. There's various funnels that money is coming through.
Okay.
The issue at stake here is that all that money, in the labor world, we like to say a good analysis of whether the money is being spent well is what are the salaries of the executives and CEOs,
right.
and are those programs profitable? But some of the statistics I'm hearing is that about 90% of these programs are in fact not profitable. And if you talk about Division I sports, basketball and football are predominantly the most, the biggest money makers.
Oh, no question.
So that's why, you don't necessarily see a lot of, tennis unions popping up necessarily.
Yeah.
So, and we talk to these, to what will be considered an employer, the
mm-hmm.
NCAA, they might also be concerned, particularly at Northwestern, that if those players organize, you're going to have, after that, the dishwashers, and then you're going to have the attendants, et cetera, right. going to organize. So I think that is kind of the unknown concern there on the back end. Not just the players, but maybe the momentum that could be gained by the labor movement overall if those players organize.
So pretty much worrying about everybody just deciding that, okay, since the players getting paid, why can't we get paid?
Exactly.
So let's organize also and let's try to get some money.
That's exactly right. So there's a lot of money at stake here.
Oh yeah, it's tons. Switching from college, with the players actually going into the NBA mm-hmm. or the NFL, also going into their unions, the National Basketball Players Association. As far as the young players coming in, do you think they're getting them ready for the NBA, for the NBA life, the money, the fame, just being able to grow up and help them through the process of going through the new change in life that they have, or they're about to partake upon?
I try not to subscribe to generalizations because I think it is really a case-by-case thing in terms of whether people are being trained for the big leagues. But I was just watching a documentary about Allen Iverson the other day.
What?
His life story is quite intriguing. This is one of the most hard-nosed, tough players that ever came out of high school basketball.
True,
and
definitely.
then college basketball. He won the title in high school for football and basketball.
True.
And then left, I believe it was maybe 1 or 2 years after being in Georgetown.
Right.
But this guy now, where is he now? No offense to him, but I think he's, the common thing people are saying is that he's broke.
That he's broke, yes.
I think there is some money waiting for him with the shoe deal that he had that he doesn't get for a few years from now, but he has debtors and things like that.
I'm not really sure, can't quote me on it, but I think it's like a trust fund that was set up for him through Reebok, but I'm not exactly sure.
Right,
about
now
that.
see, that's smart thinking. Now if he went with them and he set that up to make sure that his future was going to be taken care of, I think that's a smart move, but I think overall it's unfortunate that he wasn't, better taken care of.
And
right,
things were set in
exactly.
place for him.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. Again, the average player, I don't think they're going to have to worry about that because they're probably not going to make it to the big leagues, numbers-wise.
Yeah.
But the ones that do, I do think there still needs be a better system of education in place. That's why people like Jay-Z are having such success as players' agents.
Yeah, I think you're right about that because there's a lot of players that have come into the league that have made tons of money, millions of dollars, that have fallen down to the wayside. They're not as successful anymore. They can't play anymore. They've wasted away a lot of the money regardless of what they might have done or didn't do. And now they're broke. They're not able to feed their families or anything like that.
That's right.
They have a tough time going.
The opposing view to unionization of these players, along with a number of other arguments we can go into if you choose to, but is that the average student in college goes anywhere between $30,000 and $200,000 in debt.
Right.
If I'm a student that has a scholarship, I might come out of school with no debt. I mean, that's a rare occasion, but that might happen. But what people don't realize is that these players, if they come out of school and if they haven't come out of school and they get injured, they could lose that scholarship.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So there's no guarantees in this, and I think that is the issue primarily that this players union has. Is that there's no health benefits, there's no coverage to make sure that you are taken care of as a person and as an employee, which the NLRB, at least the regional, has already agreed that they are employees.
Because there's no way of saying that you're gonna still be able to go to school, which I don't think is fair. That you came to school to play, you played the sports, and you playing real good. You got injured. They gave you a free ride because you're gonna play sports, and being though you got injured, now you lose your scholarship. Now you can't go to school. The main thing was for you to go to school and to learn something, not just to play sports.
That's right.
And I think it's a sad situation that players lose their scholarships from getting injured, and they can't finish school, or they have to go back home, and they're not able to finish their education.
The biggest issue now going on, even in the NFL, is concussions. And there's another statistic I saw that should be confirmed, but that a lot of coaches have already testified that they are oftentimes sending players back into a game knowing that they have concussions.
Right.
So I mean, these unions are, of course, where people come together to collectively bargain with their employer for wages, benefits, and hours that they can agree on. Right. So in this particular case with players, they just have a different set of issues. If they are in fact employees, their issues are just going to be different than the average worker. We're not talking about necessarily breaks and things like that, but they do spend many hours in practice that they're not getting recompense for. So these things are things that need to be decided, and it's going to really decide the swing of momentum in the labor movement in this country. It's going to be a big part of the deciding factor.
That's what's up. I mean, I think the players and just people in general that work, the unions are there to help them to have a good job, a good paying wage, to be able to survive. And I think it's a good thing to have the unions, and it's a good thing for the players to be able to get taken care of. Speaking on that, players that have retired from the league, a lot of them are not being taken care of, or haven't been taken care of, or have had serious injuries, are dealing with a lot of things. Do you think that the union is helping those players? So do you think they're helping the NFL or the NBA to help those players? A lot of those players, like way back when Will Chamberlain and stuff was playing basketball, not living good, because back then it was a lot of money, the money they were making, but now today that's really nothing, and they're pretty much paying them off of what they made when these leagues are making so much money. Do you think they can help them even more?
I think that a lot of the labor dispute and discord in the NBA and NFL historically has been about those payment caps and things like that. Maybe the NBA will come out and say we're going to cap, and the players will respond by saying, okay, we're going to try to give these players a raise, which is actually a scenario that happened, I think it was 98 or 99. Unfortunately, what gets covered a lot is the discord, the lockouts, the strikes. But what doesn't get covered is that there's a lot that happens on a daily basis that is behind the scenes, that is really the employer, the NBA, and the employee, the players, or NFL, etc., that is solved behind the scenes that wouldn't have happened if there was no union. It may have been just a top-down decision made by the NBA, and there would be no recourse. Okay. So, I think the important thing is to remember that everybody that is a part of the union as a member is the union. You are the union if you're the union member. The union is not some guy in a suit up in a glass tower looking down at the workers along with the employer. You are the union. You do have staff that represent you, but you are a member of a union. Therefore, you're protected by bylaws that you agree upon, that you vote on, that you amend. Right. But a union is a democratic organization run by workers, to protect workers' interests. Okay. So that question comes up a lot. Is the union doing enough? Well, ask yourself, are you going to the union meetings? Are you participating and putting your input in? If you don't agree, are you voting for someone to represent you that will do what you want and that's in your best interest? Okay, and I think we as the fans of the NBA got a chance to see the players in solidarity get together during the situation when Donald Sterling, with his comments and everything, and they were banding together and proposing to boycott the basketball games and hold out and sit out and not play because they were standing strong. They didn't agree with what was said and what was going on. It was a serious situation, that was really going on, and I like the fact that they stood together in solidarity as a union, as players, and it was just a great thing to see. What do you think about that? What do you think this strength just came from? Do you think they just pulled together, or do you think it's just like one person say this and they follow this one, or from what I heard, because I'm on the outside like anybody else, there was a concerted effort amongst a lot of players across different teams, and they were saying that they were not going to play if Sterling didn't, if his position wasn't taken as head of the Clippers. Am I right in thinking that Chris Paul is the leader of the union at this point, or who is the? Chris Paul. He's the president of the players' union. Is that right? The players' union. He was the vice president. So it's funny because our generation hasn't really seen anybody from the sports world make Muhammad Ali statements. Right. We did see LeBron come out and make some very strong statements, which I think a lot of people are really proud of. Right. But the idea that these players still went out and played while these things were still being worked out, a lot of people were disappointed about that. Well, I think they were disappointed, but at the same time, I think the players showed strength, especially when the Clippers came and played, and they wore their shirts inside out so you wouldn't see the names of the Clippers on their shirts, and they dropped all the jackets in the middle of the court to show their solidarity, and they really stood strong. And LeBron being the face of the league now, the star of the league, for him to stand up and for him to come out and speak was a big thing, was a great thing, and to be one of the leaders of the league was awesome to see. And right now he's the big talk of the league right now with all this free agency going on. Where's he going? Who's going to get him? Everybody's thinking about dumping players and salaries and everything, trying to bring them in. I think even the Clippers were talking about dumping, kind of restructuring their contracts in order to bring them in. I think maybe a possibility of $200 million or something like that for him. I think that those acts were strong statements of solidarity. I also think that in terms of risk, if the average person is to make a strong statement at work in favor of a union, for example, which to this day it can be very threatening to an employer if a worker wants to join a union, and they often suffer retaliation. There's been lots of studies done about this, particularly at Cornell University. But for the risk involved in an average person attempting to join a union, there's a bit higher of a risk level just because the average person doesn't have the financial backing that a big time basketball player may. Now, and I understand that there's levels of wealth within the basketball community also, right? So you have some that may be making $60,000 a year, and you have some on the higher end where LeBron's making hundreds of millions. But I think that whatever the tactic, it was effective, and I think that people were happy with the result. Definitely, people seem to be definitely happy with the result.
So to you, you still think unions are still strong, or do you think the unions are kind of failing or falling? Because a lot of companies and corporations are trying to get away from it. I like the fact my dad was in the union. He worked 33 years for Shopper's Food Warehouse. He was Jumbo's Food Warehouse, so he was in the union. So I understand the hard work and the dedication to take, but also the same part of the union being there for him if anything came up. So, but it's been a while, But now, like you say, we talking about all these different unions. Do you think they will still be around?
We just had a major Supreme Court ruling that said that people who are a part of a union may not have to pay union dues in public employee unions, even though they're getting represented by unions. And we're constantly seeing a lot of rulings, particularly from the Supreme Court, that are going against unions. So if you ask the question, are unions still powerful? It's funny, I hear, in a given day I may hear 50 different things. 25 yes, 25 no. And these are the basic reasonings. People say unions aren't as strong as they used to be, or unions are too strong. Well, in my mind, which is it? Or is it neither? I think it's somewhere in between. I think that unions represent a much smaller percentage of the population than they did 50, 60 years ago. In the 50s, it was somewhere around 50%, and now it's in the private sector. Now it's somewhere around 10%. In public is, I can't tell you exactly, but I think around 20 or 30%. So, that's not a mistake. A lot of that started when, in the Reagan era, when he fired the air traffic controllers because they were on strike. So there has been a no-holds-barred attack on labor unions since then at every level and in every industry. But the fact is that unions are probably not going anywhere, at least in our lifetime. And I think the reasoning for that is that if you really take a look at it, most people don't realize that unions exist in every genre. We have airline pilots, we have zookeepers, A to Z. We have UPS drivers, truck drivers are all union members. You go into your local grocery store, that person, that clerk may be a union member. So it's important to be careful making blatant statements when people say, unions are for lazy workers, etc., because then you may be disrespecting the average worker that you pass on the street every day.
That's true. That's true.
You may be dissing your uncle or your cousin, or, or your pilot that gets you from point A to point B.
That's true. That's true. Because if he was lazy, I might not make it to my destination.
That's right. That's right. So I guess in short, my answer is yes and no. There's plenty of room to grow. But they're not as strong as they used to be, and I think again that college players union decision might mean a major shift. So we'll see.
Okay, that's what's up. And thank you so much for coming through and educating me and all the people out there. Just let them know about unions and let them know that there is someone out there fighting for them. And oh man, I just learned so much. It was just great for me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for letting me come by.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for watching Talk to Me. If you'd like to find out more about Larry Williams, you can follow him on Twitter at Union Basics. You can also follow me on Twitter at TalkToMe_me, and also on my website at www.talktome.tv. Thank you for watching.